morning. Yes, we are at Appsec Village, and that's the kind of energy that we need. I heard that there are so many registrations for this talk. It makes us even more nervous. We are nervous. We don't look nervous, but we are a little bit. We want to justify to all the people who have registered for the talk and have come. So we'll share as much as information to the best of our knowledge. So today, we too are going to be sharing the stage. My name is Vandana Verma. I'm currently working with a software security company called Sneak, and I'm also one of the global board of directors for OWASP, which is open. Who all know about OWASP? Okay, what is OWASP? Yeah. No, it's really, I mean it. What is OWASP?
Ask for the full form.
Yeah, he said it right. Open World Wide Application Security Project. It used to be Open Web Application. So applications are not just web applications. It can be cloud, it can be microservices and whatnot. So I'm one of the board of directors for OWASP, and I will let Viraj introduce herself. Viraj.
Thank you, Vandana. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Viraj Gandhi. I'm Product Security Manager at the SailPoint, and it's my pleasure to share a stage with Vandana.
All right. So today's topic is about running an AppSec program with a limited budget. How many of you have started startups or want to start a startup? Yeah, we all want to. In some or the other way, we have it in mind. Even I want to do it someday. So recently, or not so recent, but a year and a half back, my friend said, I have a startup, but then I have no idea how to run an AppSec program. That was a big challenge. There were so many things that were going wrong. There were so many vulnerabilities that were getting deducted. But then they didn't know what to do. Can we all buy the tools that are there, which are costly? Or on top of it, if I talk about this need for program, because we do want to make sure that we have customer trust. We are compliant by all the compliances that are there. ISO is just one of them. What about GDPR? What about so many, California CCPA, right?
Yes.
CCPA. And then in India also there is a bill which has just been recently passed. So I'm from India, so I'm just going to pitch in India here and there. Then we want to make sure that we reduce the business risk. These are just some of them. But what about the attacks that are happening? Can we say if we have all the best tools in the world, we are 100% secure? Yes, no, maybe. Let's keep it engaging. Yeah, we don't want to bore you. No. See, the best of the companies have been hacked. The best of the companies have been or part of some breaches, some or the other way. Like if you go and look up your email on one of the websites called Have I Been Pwned, you would know that somewhere you might be. My email addresses have been there. So I had to do multi-factor authentication to whatnot, right? Have you seen Have I Been Pwned? Yes? No? Yes? Some of you, yes, because then I can see the energy that we have not seen. So go look up your email. Don't dump in too much of information. Now, all of us have been in a situation that we have tens and tons of things that we want to take care of. And that's where AppSec program lands. And then we have DevSecOps. We have specifically application security team, and then we have DevOps team, then we have cloud security team, then we have network security team, and there are so many things that we are doing right now. Now with application security program, we will share certain tools which will fit right into DevSecOps, which will rightly fit into all of these programs. Now, we will start off with application security program. You will see like these three things, people, process, tools, it's just the same. Trust me, it's just the same. But the interesting bit comes is security education. Now, that's what we are here for, to share our experience. In the end, we will take up information from you as well, because we know that there are some things that we are sharing from our experience, but we would love to know from your experience as well, that how you have been through the journey of security education. And it all starts with open source. How many of us use open source? Most of us. Do you know when we talk about open source, on the internet, 80 to 90% of the applications use open source. There are research studies which say that. And when that much of code is open source, how much are we left with the code that we develop? Only 10 to 20%. And on top of it, we have containers, we have IAC, which is infrastructure as a code. And then comes cloud, where we are pushing all our applications. So while we talk about it, there's a process that we need to follow, which we are following. I'm not going to question any organization that they're not following. Correct? But do we use open source tools in our companies? Yes, we do, right? So which is the best tool that you have used so far? That works for you. That works for you. Okay. Okay. And? Okay, perfect. Yes, I love it.
Zap,
right now.
Zap,
Oh,
Sam.
Zap. That's right, Zap. If I'll not say Zap, then everyone is going to catch hold of my neck. Okay. Sam for S-bomb, right? Sam for S-bomb? SAM is a maturity model tool, and Cyclone DX is for S-bomb. How many of us are taking care of application security and they need to deal with all the third-party dependencies? We all.
Everyone.
So trust me, go look for Cyclone DX. It's one of the amazing projects that I love. Now I'm going to shut my mouth, or she will say that I have taken over the stage from her. Over to you.
I was about to say that, Vandana. So before we start, I would like to know like how many developers are there in this room. Can you please raise your hand?
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
So like before we talk about the importance of the Appsec program in your organization, I'd like to talk about the evolution of the modern software development. The modern software development has lots of moving parts. Agile methodology, the Kubernetes, cloud deployment, adoption to the third-party components library. All of that has accelerated the software delivery, but at the same time, it had added the complexity and risk. And for that reason, there has to be like a security requirement placed in your development life cycle. The study shows that at least 86% of the breaches are happening at the application layer. So definitely the web application is a primary attack vector targeted by criminals, and we have to make sure we have the Appsec program established in our organization, regardless the size and the budget the organization has. So what are the core pillars for the Appsec programs? So here you see on the slide, people, process, and the tools. They are the three core pillars for any Appsec program. When we start with the people, is all about bringing the security awareness, developing the mindset among the developers, fostering the security first development culture so that everyone is contributing to the security, not just the security engineer, that you can leverage by establishing the champions programs or coming up with a developer training for the developers of your organization. When we go with the process, it's all about achieving the secure development lifecycle that you can achieve by establishing how to handle the incidents, like the playbook for your incidents, how to handle any vulnerability coming from the various sources like the tools or like, you know, the external customers reporting or the internal engineering reporting those vulnerability, how the vulnerability life cycle will be like, you know, what are the remediation process that you need to put in place. And when we talk about the tools is helping for the automation, for the detection of all the vulnerabilities. There are the various tools that you can place in your pipeline. And again, like one or two, like a SAST and SCA tool are not sufficient in your pipeline. They're gonna do more like static analyzer testing. You still need like a runtime detection for that, like you still need the IAST or DAST. And also like, you know, before you start coming up like what are my application security needs for my organization, what framework should I seamlessly integrate in my development life cycle. You need to understand, have a deep understanding what is your organization business objective, aligning to the business goal. You need to establish a comprehensive application security plan by considering, like, what is the product offering of your organization, what are the languages used to build that products, what is the tech stack looks like, and how is the customer usage. Considering all those aspects, you need to come up with the Appsec program framework that is more aligned to your business objective and that can help in mitigating the risk and also achieving the cyber resiliency. Next slide. So regardless of the size, the budget of your organization, these are the three common goals what every organization in the industry will have to, like, trying to reduce, limit the risk in your deployed code. Like, no company would like to release the vulnerable code, and also achieving building a secure software by making sure that the security is infused in every phase of your development life cycle. Taking advantage of the developers, developing the security mindset in that so that they can also contribute for achieving this software security. And at the end, we want to demonstrate and showcase the software security maturity for our organization through the metrics and the reporting. Over to you, Vandana, for the Appsec framework.
So I love animation. We have not put animation here because we just wanted to make sure that we walk you through the whole journey. So the first thing is, in application security program, or even when we are thinking about developing a program, is the requirement gathering. Do we all agree or not? Yes, no, maybe? Yes. So when we gather the requirement, the interesting bit comes is, where should we track the requirements? When I started working in application security, the requirements were gathered in an Excel sheet. Excel sheets were passing from one person to another. Now when that passed on, trust me, I've been there, done that. There were so many iterations that used to happen that it used to be a blunder in the end of the day. Now when at the end of the day it's a blunder, what would you do? You don't know what's going to be next. There are people who are making changes. There were iterations, there were versions, but still it was a big chaotic thing. What it needed is, it needed a refinement. It needed some change. So I actually started working on a project where I was thinking, like, what to do for these requirements gathering. So there's a tool called OWASP Security Knowledge Framework. Have you heard of it? Yes, some people have heard of it, not everyone, but trust me, you should go back and check. It has an amazing GUI. It's an open source tool, free to use. You can make your own enhancements, and it's a complete package. It's not just the requirements gathering tool, but there are multiple things which I would be covering. So for OWASP Security Knowledge Framework, I realized I can actually have a big checklist of the things that I can have as part of my tool, like what language I would be using, and at which phase I would be using. So you can actually divide it into sprints. We all use sprints, maybe bi-weekly, or for every application we use these sprints. With using OWASP Security Knowledge Framework, you can pick up the language, you can pick up the test cases that are there, because I don't remember all the test cases, what should be there as part of my application. I can pick and choose, and I can actually send it to my developers that this is what I want to do. And with every modification, there'll be a new version that will be created so that you can track it, rather than tracking it in an Excel sheet. Now, I started using that, but then threat modeling became a big challenge. Who all do threat modeling here? Some of us use. So threat modeling, some people say it's a tedious task. Some people say you can do it as fast as possible. Some people say, oh, it should be done only before the application development starts. But let me tell you, threat modeling is something which we should do at every phase. We can do it threat modeling when we are discussing about the requirements. We can do threat modeling when we are actually building the application. We can do it via code as well. There are tools which can do threat modeling as a code. So there is a tool called OWASP PyTM that can actually navigate through all your code, even in cloud, and can tell you that, yes, these are the things which are there. And then on top of it, there's a threat dragon, which you should look on. Have you heard of Threat Modeling Manifesto? Yes, some people have heard, but not. But if you want to actually or if you are interested in threat modeling, then you should definitely check out Threat Modeling Manifesto. Now, organizations are moving towards threat modeling as a code as well, where you want to know about your application code in the cloud. How would you do it? You want to know about your cloud environments. How would you take care of it? So you can do the threat modeling as a code itself for your cloud environments. That's where you can take help from all these open source tools. Now, I'm taking the name just to set the context, but I have a slide where you can just take a picture of all those tools and you would be able to use it. And I'm going to use most of the open source tools names so that it's easy for you to go back and pick up. And even if there are challenges, I've created a video recording for each tool. At least 30 tools I've done it, where you can just look at the 10 minutes video for each tool and you can figure out what tool actually does. And because, see, for me, if I start reading, I will sleep off. Trust me, we all have that reading fatigue. So there are some people who are good, but then I am not. So I accept that this is my flaw. But when I talk to someone, someone tells me and shows me this is how a tool works, a documentation project work, it helps me. And especially for the people who are starting their own AppSec program for open source, for startups, for mid-sized business, you should definitely check Project Spotlight series, because it not only talks about requirements gathering, threat modeling, but it also talks about how you can do source code review. So in October end, we have a conference in DC, OWASP, where we will be releasing source code review checklist. So do keep a check on it. Source code review checklist was updated like for all the developers. It was updated way back in 2017. It has not been updated since then. But for all of us to get to know that what are the test cases that can be there for all the new languages. We have Node, we have we have JavaScript, then we have Go, we have so many other languages. But what do we do? So source code review checklist will help you out. And after that, when I talk about vulnerability testing, I want to get that embedded as part of my DevSecOps pipeline. So ZAP, OWASP ZAP, which is Z Attack Proxy, can actually help you out in integrating it within your environment, within Selenium. There are so many plugins, there are so many test cases which are there, which can help you. And for defect tracking, have you heard about a tool called Defect Dojo? Defect Dojo. So Defect Dojo is the tool which can help you in getting all of those test cases, all of those vulnerabilities in one ecosystem. Like we have Remedy, we have Snow, we have many other tools which are commercial. So you should use commercial tools, but before that, what I would say is try open source. Know your appetite. I have few friends who are CISOs. What they've done is they've bought some tools which look fancy. Trust me, they're fancy tools. Everyone talks about it. But do we have the budget for it? No, we don't have budget. But with open source, you can start the budget as maybe as $0 or maybe $10 based on the cloud fees if you want to set it up in the cloud. So you should actually check out Defect Dojo. It's easy to implement, easy to integrate from callers to all of these tools which are commercial tools. It can actually take out the data and show you the nice dashboard. How many of us are executives here? We have talked about the developers. How many of us are CISOs or executives here? You are. So for them, the big challenges, we don't understand, but the biggest challenge is how to actually get the budget from the board and how to make sure that we are aligned with our budget and get the right tools. So while we were working on setting up the program for this startup, we realized that these tools are there, but how do we integrate? Is there any integration available? So for integration also, we have created a small video. We will be sharing all the content at the end, because in this presentation, we want to share that, okay, these are the resources which you can take a look at it and pick up what you need. It's like a buffet we have created for you. You pick and choose from that buffet, because there's so many things that are happening around and everyone has their own terminology for these things. The interesting bit comes is we do secure code review, we do vulnerability testing, but now open source has become a challenge. Why do I say that? Because we are using it so heavily, but then with great power comes great responsibility. As I think Spider-Man says that, but I love this quote. Why do I say that? Have you heard about a breach which happened around, actually not a breach, but a big vulnerability around Log4j? Yeah? Trust me, we had sleepless nights. When this happened, I was on a vacation. I was like, oh, December, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going out for vacation. And after like pandemic, we didn't take vacation because we were just going on and on that we are working from home. But I took a good vacation of 3 weeks. And then I saw everyone is talking on Twitter, LinkedIn, Slack, everywhere. Why? Is it new? No, it is not new. These vulnerabilities have been there since ages, since we've started talking about open source. Why? Because we forget to update, or we forget to maintain the list of things that we have in our house. So I'll tell you a funny thing. We have 4 doors and 4 windows in our house. Oh my God. Okay, I'll give you. Yeah, that's what I do. Because I move my hands a lot. So in our house, we have 4 windows and 4 doors. When we went on vacation, we closed everything. But there is one thing we missed to close was the attic. Now that's called open source. We thought it's on attic, who will get it on attic and do something? Somebody comes from attic, takes whatever information they want, whatever things they want and goes away. Do we want that? No. So that's where open source comes into picture. And now if I say Log4j gave us sleepless nights, but in 2017 there was a breach which happened, big breach. Actually I'm talking about it's not just a vulnerability, but breach happened because of Apache, older version, and I wouldn't want to name the company because they have actually thrived after that, or they will just catch hold of me, or they would never hire me if I just code them. So there was a breach happened because of an Apache older version. Not to blame Apache. Why do I say that? Because they told everyone that there is a vulnerability. They released a patch. After releasing the patch, companies started updating, but then the exploit was being used everywhere. And this company got breached. Until now, the fines are being happening. They didn't know how much data actually got hacked, who all companies got hacked. So it was very, very crazy. But then, after 5 years, 6 years, we're still sailing in the same boat talking about it. And that's when OWASP dependency check can help you out. If you talk about supply chain attacks, are they new? No, they're not new. But then when supply chain attack, Orion, it happened on Orion server, SolarWinds. I should say SolarWinds. When that happened, everybody was like, oh, supply chain attack is happening. We need to take a look at it. But remember, that we are using all of these dependencies. Are we maintaining a list of it? No. And that's where, especially if I'm talking about for open source organizations or the organizations who want to use open source, let's start scanning it from dependency check, which actually pulls the data from NPD database. And from there, you can actually send all the details to Cyclone DX, which is an SBOM, so that you can have list of things. Like I forgot to close my attic, right? Window. And I didn't know what I have. So you need to know what you have, and then only you can secure it. Not from external threats. Trust me, first, if we secure our home, 80% of the things are done. Most of the times what I have seen attacks is that we don't secure our home itself. And for that, we need to train our people. We need to educate that these things exist. Actually, these things actually make a difference. Now, over to you.
Thank you, Vandana. So this is the ideal secure software development lifecycle, how it should look like. So anyone is interested in establishing the Appsec program, these are the few things what you need to do, must to do in every phase of your development lifecycle. With the recent economic downturn and like the team sizing, still there is a challenge for all the businesses that how they can protect their company from the risk, how they can combat with the tech-savvy cyber criminals, like how they can achieve like more from the less. This morning the speaker mentioned that, you know, every company has a desire of how can we get most from the less, like how can we still establish, have a feasible, cost-effective application security program while also reducing the cost of the operational and the development and the licensing cost. So few things to be considered. I'll talk about starting with the people and the process perspective, what you can be doing in order to achieve an effective, cost-effective application security program. To start with, like Vandana mentioned, establish a design architectural review using the open source, maybe the thread dragon, so that you are identifying the threads, and potentially it will be cost saving if you are detecting those threads as early as possible in your development life cycle, rather waiting for that threads to become the vulnerability and then getting reported by the customer or by hackers. Other few things what you can do is, like, if you are QA engineers, mainly your measurement would be around the performance functional testing, but also start considering the security while you are doing those testing of your software. That where also you can easily detect those vulnerability and get remediated more early in your development life cycle. If the company is doing the regular pen testing, sometimes you have to do because of the compliance certification purpose. You can think of reducing the cadence of those testing cycles. It can be cost draining. You can always complement by establishing an internal pen testing program. All you need is to hire a pen tester that can continuously do the pen testing. And also things to consider, like if your feature or a software is about to get depreciate, don't spend the effort time in running scanning the tools. You can easily free up the license. If that only it's minor cosmetic UI changes you will be supporting for that the software that is getting appreciated, and just make sure that the annual pen testing has been performed. Many smaller organizations, they take advantage of the VDP and the private bug bounty program. You get the perspective from external researchers who can help you in identifying those vulnerability in your software, and again it's very cost effective. So these are the few measures that you can do in order to establish a feasible, cost-effective application security program. So next one is, I talk about the people prospect aspect. Now the tools, what are the tools that you can leverage, the open source tool, and especially the tools available from the OAups universe. Vandana already gone over many of the tools from the OAups, but there are still the non-OAups tools which are still open source that you can leverage and integrate in your pipeline and still have a feasible application security program. If you guys were around yesterday, there was a workshop from the SamGraph. It's a lightweight static analyzer tool. They gave an amazing workshop of how to customize the rule set. So open source do have the capability to write a customization code and help you to detect the business flaw from your software. If the source code is in a GitHub, you can easily enable the depender bot just with a 2-3 button click, and with a minor configuration changes, it will start detecting any vulnerabilities there in the third-party libraries. And trust me, integrating the open source is very easier. You don't need to spend months or number of the weeks. In a few days, you can easily integrate and start detecting those vulnerabilities from your pipeline. And like I said earlier, the SAST and SCA scan are not sufficient in your pipeline. Lately, many code is getting deployed into the containers, and containers are being they are being built from the baseline images, and if the baseline image is vulnerable, the application also indirectly gonna inherit those vulnerability. So for that, the infrastructure as a code scanning is also very necessary. And there are the open source tools out there like the Checkwow and TFSec that you can leverage, that gonna scan your Terraform files and it's gonna detect the misconfiguration in your code. So these are again, this list is comprehensive, but again, there can be more list of the open source, which still we are still trying to figure out, and we are keep on adding that, where it fits in our development phase of the cycle. So feel free to take the photo of this slide. Over to you, Vandana.
Great, thank you. Now, sometimes pictures can be deceiving, so we thought, okay, let's go ahead and mention each of those tools. that what they do for training and awareness, what documentation can be there, for security, what documentation, for requirements gathering, what can be there, for SCA, what all tools are there, and for knowledge management, like application security verification standard. Have you heard of application security verification standard? Some of you, right? I'll tell you a funny story. So when I started, I started my career in network security. I was configuring firewalls, routers, switches. With those hardwares, like way back in 2005-6, that were the things, right? Because we didn't have softwares which we have now. But then I joined my second company as a SIM admin. Now, mind it, I'm supposed to join as a SIM admin after 5 years, 6 years of my career. And when I go on the first day, my boss said that the role is not there anymore. You need to join the application security team. Trust me, I didn't know A of application security. I did know a bit of coding, but that too at a very, very novice level. I would say now the kids knows better than what we used to know at that time. So I didn't know anything. So what I started learning was about OWASP. When I started learning about OWASP, I only knew OWASP top 10 and testing guide, that's it. Trust me, I was so happy that at least I got to know something. So over the next few months, I created a checklist from testing guide and top 10. An Excel sheet, beautiful Excel sheet, so that my team can use it and can stay happy. Oh, there's something which is there for them. Now, I went to my boss and shared that Excel sheet. And he started laughing. Now, I'll tell you why. Because he said, have you ever looked at ASVS? I said, what is ASVS? So the person told me ASVS is Application Security Verification Standard, which actually has different levels, 0 to 3. Like if we are starting off, we are at 0 level, and then there are level increases. If you are a fintech company, you should definitely look at level 3, which is which has the most number of test cases, which we should look at, which we all, for pen testers, for developers, for everyone. And trust me, that day I realized that OWASP is much more than testing guide and top 10. So we should look at all the projects which are there. We should take help from it. And then I had a fascination that I need to get my name on OWASP top 10. Like my name is there on the website, which is a different story now, but then on the top 10 list, like how, because they mention every volunteer, every contributor on the GitHub. How many of you know that there is a GitHub for OWASP? Some of you, and especially for developers. Let me tell you, there is a GitHub because you use it day in and day out. So you can actually make recommendations in a way where you can suggest the changes in the code. Because not all the security people are not so good in security. Developers can be the best security people. So you should definitely take a look at it. You should suggest changes. You should fork the repos and then suggest the pull request. And at the same time, you can help in language as well. There are many languages that project can be converted, and then you would be marked as the big contributor there. So your name can also be there on these projects for sure. Now, while we talk about budget, I would let you speak first and then I'll comment, or I wouldn't stop
I just
speaking.
wanted to add that, for the OWASP community, there are the Slack channels for each of the OWASP projects. So you can join those channels and you can get the latest update on what's going on each of the projects. So this is just a guideline of how you can allocate your budget on what all category to again establish a cost-effective application security program. It's not a setting stone. Like the bigger company that has an unlimited budget, or like the budget with a many zero, they can easily go with the commercial licensing tools and help the developers to identify, detect those vulnerabilities and do the remediation, and also come up with a customized reporting chart. But for an organization that has a limited or a zero budget, you can leverage on the open source tool, and still you can achieve that secure software development lifecycle for your software.
Okay. Now, when we talk about measurement, the first thing that you all should look at, where do we stand? Because we all don't know where do we stand. So first things first is that wherever we stand, we should start from there. And understand from the governance perspective that what are the strategies we have. What are the tactics, policies, compliances do we use? But then how will you know that? So OWASP SAM, Security Assessment Maturity Model, has all the test cases. Now you'd be thinking, do I need to read the documentation? No, we have done the work for you. You just go to OWASP Project Spotlight series on YouTube and you would be able to figure out everything. So project leaders have explained each project and it will help you and analyze that, okay, you have SCA, you have SAST, you have DAST, but still there is something which is missing. Okay, maybe something around training around compliance. Maybe there are certain checklists that you need to assess threats which are there. Or sometimes the security requirements itself are not very clear or they're changing. Very, very important to have that, because how do you track all those changing requirements? We are living in an agile world. So very important to have that. And automation. I would say I'm a big proponent of automation. Remember, automate, automate, automate. Automate anything which is humanly possible. Now for open source, the automations are available from each tool. When I say I have done that requirement gathering to the actually production, there are automation pieces available. The talk that we are giving here, there's a next talk which we should be giving, but we gave that talk early on, how exactly you can actually integrate all of these tools that we actually showed you in the previous slide. So the talk is already there. You just need to look at that talk that, okay, these are the pieces that I need. I need SCA. How I can do that? So you can just pick it up, download, and you're good to go from there. The developers don't need to read the documentation also. The video is there, 10-minute video, which actually explain everything. And then when I talk about security testing, even ZAP, how you can integrate into your own environment. I have known organizations from IBM to all of these organizations using ZAP, where they have actually modified the scripts for themselves. They have automated so that they don't need a commercial tool. But they bought it afterwards because they wanted to analyze their own appetite. So always, always, even for enterprise I'm talking about, first analyze what you need. Even though it looks fancy, but it can be very deceiving if you do not know that what exactly or what are the requirements that your developers have. Another thing is that when we talk about maturity measurements, it also needs a bottom-up approach, a top-down approach. Now, what is top-down approach is whether the leadership is asking, what do you need? And at the same time, there's another thing is ROI, which is return on investment. If we are investing in a tool, what are we getting? Now, it becomes developers and security persons or operations persons' responsibility to show this is the open source that we are using, these many bugs we have secured or fixed, or this is the backlog that we have, for which we need to have commercial tools so we can just raise automated pull requests. Or especially for SCA and code review I'm talking about, but for vulnerability testing, also that, okay, these are the highlights that can be there. Now, another important thing comes is that there is a limited budget, but we need to look at the whole roadmap, that what do we have, how soon we want to have it. This Appsec program with open source tool, I set it up in exactly 15 days. It took me 15 days. It can take a month for you based on the environment. For me, I wanted to set it up on my local system, a VM. So it was like, it took me 15 days. And I was like, I have to do it. But then for your team, it could take a month as well, but then it will show the ROI. And especially for my friend who started a startup, it was a hit. Because he has to show the customer that, okay, we have an application security program. This is how we are doing it. This is how the vulnerabilities are coming. Because if he says, oh, we have everything the best, trust me, things don't work out. And that's where the trust clashes comes. And big trust issues comes. So we need to break down what we must need, what we should have, and what we can think of, okay, we can do it. But then there has to be a timeline defined for it. Because if you don't know when you want it, it will go on for months and months and months. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to keep our mouth shut here and we will open up for any questions you might have.
I just wanted to add that, the open source are there to establish your Appsec program, but they are free. But keep in mind that you still need few resources to execute, implement, establish that Appsec programs.
So, quick question. So you said that you have ways to automate all of the different security checks and controls real pain.
I totally understand. So when you go to the API section, they have opened up APIs which you can just pick up and start using. That's where, and the documentation is really good, where you can just go to the zap.com and then you would be able to pick up all of those requirements. And if they're not there, you can actually build it yourself as well, because it's open. Now, why do I say that? Because this is being done by all the volunteers on their free time. So they're giving their best. There are few things which might be missing for sure. Let me put it this way. We all accept it. I run open source projects. I've just started on something around AI, but I would not be able to do it full time, right? So there are few things which are there, but yes, I can actually show you every detail of it. I've created a proper video around it, which might be helpful. And if you think there's something missing, please do let me know as well, because I'm open for feedback. Yeah. Yes, please.
How do you manage inventory for all the systems that are feeding into it? Who owners of those things are, so you can relate back and say, like, hey, you have a vulnerability. How do you
Just last question.
how do you make sure they know what to fix?
So the question comes is, how do you maintain the inventory and you get to know about the assets, right? So the interesting bit comes is the tagging. So I use OWASP AMAS, which actually helps in network discovery, figuring out what all we have, and then we put it in a database and then start the tagging, classification. So we classify. There are certain open source databases as well that we are using where we are actually classifying, because classifying is very, very important. And that's a good question, because if you don't classify, you would never be able to fix the vulnerabilities. So that's where we do that. Like, we pick up and understand even what we have, even what we have not tracked in our database using AMAS. AMAS, yes. AMAS is a really good tool. Again, it's free. Please use it. Please share your feedback. Please share inputs. If you think that there's something can be done in that, please make pull requests for that, or please suggest feedback on GitHub. Very important. These tools are supported by all the open source people or the volunteers. Even you can, if you think there's something which is missing, you can start your own project as well. And we would love to promote that as well, because that's very, very important. Last question. Yes, please.
If you had to buy one tool, which one would it be?
Commercial? I work for a vendor, so I wouldn't name any tool. Sorry. That's why I'm wearing this t-shirt today. Before this, I was wearing another t-shirt, so I had to change. I would be open, because here I'm speaking at Appsec Village. If I say any name, Erez is going to kill me. Great. So thank you so much. We're going to be around. If you have anything, any feedback, please do let us know. We're open for feedback. What changes can we do in the talk?